Now, another source of regret for people, a big one, is not having made the declarations of love or of value or of gratitude or appreciation to the people who were most important to them, okay? So not having actually expressed what you do really feel inside, not having expressed to others what they have meant to you. So what are the kind of regrets that we negotiate in the second half of life? What do those look like? What are the categories, let's say? All right, the biggest ones are missed opportunities, the chance to express love, gratitude, appreciation for the people around us or for aspects of our life, okay? And the need to give forgiveness to someone else, to extend forgiveness, or to receive forgiveness from someone else. Okay, these are big ones, aren't they? Now, missed opportunities are important, right? So that's things like relationships that ended too early sometimes, choices that went wrong, plans or dreams that maybe didn't manifest, things that we wanted to come true by a certain point that maybe now will not come true. We know that. These are kind of like the unlived life, I think. We always presume that the unlived life, for some reason, was going to be magnificently better than the life we chose, which is hysterically funny because, you know, it's so typical of human beings, you know. What I ended up with is so bad, and that wonderful life out there that I would have chosen was going to be magnificent, really. And what we know is, no, it was going to be peppered with its own difficulties, its own challenges. Some things might have looked different, some things might have looked worse. Okay, and in either event, with that unlived life, you would still end up right here negotiating regrets. You'd have to go through this developmentally. So, you know, in a roundabout way, I suppose what I'm saying is the unlived life, you know, and the grass is greener, you know, it's not the best use of our energy. And yet at the same time, I think we do have to go through it a bit. So there's just things like, you know, you might have been a great artist. Perhaps you might have, you know, you might have been college educated. Yes, you know, you might have. You might have maybe had a completely different childhood than the one that you had, that maybe left you vulnerable in some way, vulnerable to some choices that you wish you hadn't made. Yes, okay, that's a harder one. You might have opted for something simpler in terms of career that didn't demand as much of your time or mental energy. You might have. And sometimes this kind of escalates. You know, if we're not being careful, this kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The should-haves, the could-haves, the if-onlys, you know? And it can head into places of blame. Blame of others, blame of self. If only I hadn't done this. If only I hadn't been so this, you know? If only they had just done this. You know, like this woman who became divorced. She had to negotiate a lot of blame in that process. Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I see this early? Why was I so stupid? Why was he so this? You know, she really had to kind of contend with the part that was having trouble understanding the journey and just wanted to lay it all on someone, if that makes sense. It's painful to contemplate the unlived life. You know, we see things that we hoped for, that we didn't attain. It's painful. There's grief in it. Blame, shame is a distraction from the grief. It's pretty common at around maybe 40, 45 for people to start looking at others around them, right? They're looking at others who they feel that they have the lives that they couldn't, the lives that they have been denied. There are elements of truth. There are real things to be grieved in here, but it's only a partial truth. We usually start looking at peers, you know. So here we see like the stay-at-home mother who is looking at the career mother, you know, and thinking, well, I could have had a career. I would have liked a career, you know. But for all these children I had, or but these sacrifices that I made for the children, I also could have had a career. Okay, that's an example. They become fascinated by the lives of others, right? So we see people who look at people who have children and they don't have children. And again, there can be real grief in this, but only a partial truth. We see the stressed out college-educated careerist who is looking at someone who they feel is leading a more simple life. You know, why didn't I just bypass the whole career thing and do something more simple? You know, I could go on and on. I could really go on. And everybody has a version of this that they have to kind of contend with. Now, this is useful. This is useful insofar as you can extract from it what's important for you. The things that need to be grieved, the things that maybe you want to engage with now, and some more in that, you know, the parts of your personality that still need to be expressed. That is valuable work. That can be done from this. However, if it takes us to the places of shame, blame, envy, this kind of thing, it wastes our energy. Just depletes our energy. When this happens, we get distracted from the meaning of our own life. So depending on how we engage with this, this will either help us to create more meaning in our life or understand the meaning of our unique life, or it will take us down a rabbit hole. What I'm saying is that if you are comparing yourself and your life to your brother, your sister, your neighbor, your colleague, or sometimes even your children, right? Sometimes maybe children have these experiences that we have never had. If you're doing that, you need to be doing that in the right way. You need to be doing it in a way that helps you grasp onto meaning rather than depletes you in some way. Now, I think that one thing I would also say on the unlived life is that people forget. If you look closely enough at anybody's story, you will find little fragments of the unlived life peppered throughout it. Okay? This is extremely important. What am I talking about? I am saying maybe that the person who chose the security of a career that maybe they find a little bit dull, but they always had like an artistic inclination or something that never got to be expressed. Look around in that person's life. Usually what you will find is that there are little places of art throughout their life, you know, whether that's in how they've decorated the home, whether that's in an art class that they decided to take, you know, when they were 45, whether they have a child who is an artist and they really affirm that, you know, the art that they didn't get to live out is peppered throughout their life. And this is something to be celebrated. So if we get so caught up on this entire unlived life that we never got to live, we miss the little bits of beauty, you know, that occurred in the life that we did. Now, another source of regret for people, a big one, is not having made the declarations of love or of value or of gratitude or appreciation to the people who were most important to them. Okay, so not having actually expressed what you do really feel inside, not having expressed to others what they have meant to you, you know, so this can come in different forms. This can happen when maybe we've lost someone, you know, before we've gotten the chance to say to them, this is what you've meant to me, you know, or sometimes if a relationship was quite conflicted, you know, we couldn't fully express ourselves. There was just too much in the way, and we have a regret about that. Okay, this can come up sometimes for people when they have been too shy. Some people are simply too shy of that kind of emotional expression, and they regret not having taken more risks that way because of that shyness. All right. Sometimes we think that, you know, we were going to have more time with someone than we did. A breakup comes, or somebody dies, or somebody moves away, and we don't get that space to say those things that we wanted to say. Right? So I think something that's really important for us to think about here is, you know, where has this happened? Where did we not get to do that? And how can we kind of remedy that for ourselves? If obviously we're still in relationship with someone, okay, we can work on creating the space to tell them what they mean to us. You know, that's pretty obvious. But like, what about the situations where we're no longer in contact with someone, or where someone is gone, or maybe there's been a lot of wounding and, you know, it's maybe sometimes better just not to go there, you know? And I think we have to engage with this kind of creatively, you know? Like, I can remember a man who didn't get to communicate to his son, who had died, what he meant to him. He'd always been kind of a little bit hard on the son. And they had a somewhat fractious relationship. And there were many things that the father wished that he had said, you know? And there were gifts that the son had that the father never celebrated. He was so busy trying to shape him into what he wanted him to be and what he thought being a good man was, that he kind of squashed those in the son. And this was a deep regret for him. Why didn't he just kind of celebrate the son for who he was? And now he doesn't have the chance for that. There's awful pain in that, you know? But the son was really actually into these environmental causes. And this was not something that the father had much interest in. And after the son was gone, he took it upon himself. This was how he engaged with the regret. He took it upon himself to learn about all of this. And he was in contact with some of the organizations that the son had belonged to. And he started donating money and he started donating time. And he actually learned to love some of these things that were very important to his son. What I'm saying is he leaned into and moved into relationship with his son, even though his son was gone. And he really felt that he was doing what he hadn't done before he died. He was celebrating him now, in the present, and his relationship with his son was very much alive in this. What I'm saying is that wherever we have had important relationships where we couldn't manifest what we had hoped for in them, either because they're gone or because they're too complex for us to negotiate, there's too much space or wounding in between, there are still ways of engaging with these positively. There are still ways of celebrating the good parts of these, okay? If we can do that deeper work.